Eric Cedillo is an immigration attorney and an adjunct professor of law at SMU on the line right now to discuss this case that occurred at a Queens elementary school in New York where agents came in and were looking for a fourth grader, and the school turned them away. I'm told there's a lot of this story that's been reported, Eric, that might not be completely fair. What really happened there in Queens?
Well, I think from what we're seeing, since a USCIS responded to it, USCIS is actually the administrative arm of immigration. They're not the enforcement mechanism. ICE is actually the enforcement folks.
Got it.
That go in and ask these questions. So if they were USCIS agents, then they probably were looking for, most likely information, records is what they maintained, and not actually going into, investigate the actual student or speak with a student or interview with a student. They've got. Go ahead.
Yeah, you go. I'm interested.
Well, actually, they've got a policy in place. Immigration has a policy in place with respect to sensitive locations, and of course, schools are sensitive locations. So, in those situations, it would require, if ICE were to go in and actually attempt to actually arrest and deport a student, that would require certain supervisory authorization. But it does appear that this was not ICE that actually went in; it was the administrative arm.
As an attorney, an immigration attorney, and some of the rhetoric that we've heard out during the campaign and currently, what is that? How does that make these people feel right now? We hear stories of people trying to get into Canada, and is it chaotic at this point?
Well, in all honesty, the rhetoric is one thing. The actual application of what's happening, I don't think much has changed. There has been certainly an uptick in the number of deportations from this time last year, but that was based, of course, on the Obama administration kind of switching gears. Obama had deported over 2.5 million people.
Big numbers.
So it was a situation where that, something that's a little bit, people are fearful. I think it's the state actions that are probably becoming more scaring a whole lot of folks. I'm calling in from Texas, so we just passed an SB4 bill that, quite honestly, is really scary for a whole lot of folks. So I think those are the things that are probably causing the most reaction and fear.
When we here in New York think of Texas, we automatically assume that Texas is with the president on these immigration policies, but that might not really be the case. In many cases, I think what people really want, the president uses that bad hombres phrase, but I think what people really want is the bad people to be taken care of. But there are a lot of good people that are working and living in these communities, right?
There is no doubt. And the state of Texas is pretty big. Because of that, you got a lot of areas in which, certain cities are Dallas is becoming more of a liberal hub. Austin, of course. So it's a situation where the Texas legislature can truly be split in terms of what it is we do and the way in which we think about things. But the symbiotic relationship between Texas and Mexico is incredibly long and close. So it's a situation where a lot of business folks don't like what's happening. Whereas some individuals, on the very far right are saying, hey, we need this and we need to scare people into action. So unfortunately for us, for some of us, currently, the Texas legislature is kind of run by some of those folks.
Yeah.
So it's a trying time.
Are they taking? Are these illegals taking jobs away from Americans, or are they doing the jobs that many Americans just don't want to do? What's the truth here? Or are we somewhere in the middle?
Quite honestly, I think it's certainly the latter in terms of where we are here in Texas. Quite honestly, there's a whole lot of businesses that rely on this labor force to be successful and to move. I think the state of Texas specifically has really benefited. We've overcome some of the more trying times of other states because of that relationship that we've had. So in all honesty, the way in which we have it here currently, it is a situation where this particular part of the labor force, these are just jobs that, certain folks from born here perhaps are just aren't taking. So, it's not a situation where they really are taking those jobs.
And back in New York, what were these officials, immigration officials, doing? What were they trying to accomplish by coming into the school? Do we know at this point?
Yeah, I think purportedly what they were doing was collecting information regarding the records. Now, there is a situation wherein immigration will, they'll go in to see if the records were accurate. It may be a situation where the students' parents were applying for some sort of immigration benefit, which, like DACA, deferred action, requires that there be a presence here in the United States. And school records are the best way to kind of show that, especially students who don't have other histories, to show that they've been in the United States for a certain period of time. There may have been a situation where records were presented to them where they may have felt they may have been doctored or some other thing. So they were going in directly to the school to verify that information. That's purely speculative on my part, but that happens a whole lot.
This is obviously the immigration talk has been big over the last year because of the election. It's been politicized greatly. And when we hear stories about people getting into the country, they're coming in. In your mind, the vision you see is people sneaking in across the borders, wherever, coming in with possibly nefarious intentions. But the problem we have, and again, you're there, so you probably see this. You definitely see this more than we do. So this is a question. I would assume the problem we have is. Do we recruit? Are there American companies that recruit people from, let's say, Mexico because they need workers in certain and certain businesses? So now we've created this arena where we're recruiting, and now all of a sudden we're saying you're illegal, you got to get out. Therein lies the confusion. Am I painting even close to a picture of what it's really like?
Well, I don't know if there's a need to recruit so much as they're here, and they're the ones who are filling in the jobs. So I don't know if there's an actual recruitment in Mexico. But again, the symbiotic relationship between Mexico and Texas, it has been, there's no getting around that it's there, and that the labor is they're coming here, to the United States to work and to fill those jobs that are available. So certainly, lots of the companies here, of course, turn a blind eye to some of the things that could purely, really easily verify whether or not someone is here with a proper Social Security number, things of that nature. So, it's a situation where they don't necessarily have to go and say, hey, look, we're recruiting for people. It's just those are the people who are making the applications.
Well, let me present it this way. We are probably sending the wrong message. When our companies are hiring them, they're able to live in the community, and oftentimes they're paying taxes and et cetera, et cetera. Now all of a sudden we're saying, well, this isn't good anymore. It's not as if all the blame can be. I guess I'm trying to say all the blame can be positioned towards those immigrants that are coming in. We have some responsibility here as well.
Oh, there is no doubt, and it's kind of unspoken. It's hypocritical to suggest that it's not happening. It's definitely happening, and again, here in the state of Texas, our economy is really based on that relationship. There is no doubt that some companies, if they were truly to crack down on individuals who weren't capable of working here properly on those businesses, then lots of those businesses would go out of business.
Right. Yeah.
So that's the reality, and that's the kind of the fight and the struggle, and currently in our legislature here in Texas, the business versus some on the far right who just want to end immigration at all costs.
Yeah.
So lots of these businesses need to step up and talk about the possibility of true reform. Allow those people or those individuals who have been here for years and years working to have the opportunity to continue to do that, and coming out of the shadows and doing it in a proper way.
The other thing is we always see, when we think of this immigration, we're always seeing Mexicans. Here in New York, I think it's Canadians. We see many Canadians here.
Right.
It's just it's the picture that has been painted in the media and through politics. Eric Cedillo, immigration attorney, very, very interesting. I appreciate you taking the time this morning.
Thank you for having me.
All right.